When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
She's talking about it this morning. Justine McIntyre sitting in for Elias Makos. A former Montreal nursing student is seeking $600,000 in damages after a sexual assault at John Abbott College in a lawsuit that was filed Tuesday of this week. The Montreal woman says her dream of becoming a nurse was destroyed after she was sexually assaulted by a former supervisor in his office in 2021. She was 17 years old at the time. Boris Stanley Paredes, 61 years old, has pled guilty to one count of sexual assault at the beginning of September this year, just before he was set to go to trial. The victim, who's now 20 years old, is suing him, the CEGEP, and the West Montreal Readaptation Centre where he was employed for $600,000 in damages. Jeff Orenstein, the victim's lawyer, joins us now. Welcome, Jeff.
Yes, thank you for having me.
So what was the sentencing after the guilty plea on the part of Boris Stanley Paredes?
So, I didn't participate in the criminal case, but
No.
I presume there was a negotiated plea as well as the sentence. He was given 3 years probation and 240 hours of community service.
Okay. Does your client feel that was a fitting result for his guilty plea?
I don't know that she necessarily took any position with regard to the criminal case. That's sort of the state that takes care of that.
Mm-hmm.
Her interest, at least with regard to the civil case, which she does participate in, it's not the state that handles that. It's going to be us that's handling that as well as the court system, really is talking about compensation for damages. Both, the physical, psychological injuries, the lost wages, because as we mentioned in the proceedings, she ended up dropping out of school and did not realize her dream of becoming a nurse. As well as we asked for punitive damages too.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the impacts, because I didn't. That's not something that I have shared with our listeners right now. People might not be aware of all of the details of the case. So just in terms of the damages that she's seeking now in this civil case, they're meant to compensate, as you said, loss of wages. Can you elaborate a little bit on some of the things that the victim has stated in terms of her impact?
So if we're talking about wages, just for that, and then we'll get to psychological for a minute or physical. But with regard to wages, a nurse would have certain, salary, job security, things like that. But in the end, after she had dropped out, she's had very modest earnings, doing odd jobs. We talk about she was a cashier or server at a grocery store, pizza delivery, selling music equipment. So obviously this is not the same, type of salary that you could earn if you had become a nurse and actually went ahead in your career. With regard to the psychological injury or even physical injury here, it's quite extensive. She was seeing psychiatrists, psychologists. She's been seeing it since that day. She suffers from post-traumatic stress syndrome. She has nightmares, flashbacks, hallucinations about the incident. She suffers from panic attacks. She thinks that she sees the defendant in private and in public, and she even installed a camera in her bedroom because she actually couldn't even tell whether he was standing there. That's how she was impacted. That's how much she was impacted. She often, when she smells, she remembers his smell and smells him when she's going out. She has difficulty going out in public and in large crowds. She's had bouts of fainting spells, which has caused her to go to the emergency room frequently. She suffered a miscarriage. She has intimacy issues. She had two attempts at suicide by overdosing on both her prescription medication as well as self-medicating with other drugs. So the psychological impact, I think, is very significant, continues to this day even, and we attribute it to both the perpetrator, of the act, as well as the CEGEP behind it and the public institution, the West Montreal Readaptation Centre. So we attribute it, legally at least. Maybe they didn't commit the acts, admittedly, but there's legal roots as to where the either either employers or principals or people that gave access did not have proper controls or surveillance of this person who they knew would be interacting with students on campus. To me, there were things that should have been done that weren't done.
Okay. I just want to mention that we do have a response from the CEGEP that was shared earlier on our CTV news story. A statement from them says that when they were made aware in 2021 of what was at that time an alleged assault, the college sexual assault resource team moved into action to support the student in question. They say that the individual that the student identified as being responsible was not employed by the college, but was an educator with the West Montreal Readaptation Center. And they add that the quick response and support of the student by the SART team resulted in her care, not only her care, but the immediate removal of the employee in question. I just want to put that out there because that's something that we received from the college. But obviously hearing you, talk about the impact on the victim, I can't help but feel empathy and the horror of that situation for a 17-year-old girl to have undergone that kind of an assault. This, of course, is in the wake of other stories that have been in the media, these types of sexual assault stories that have been surfacing. And I have to ask you, do you expect that there may be other victims that may come forward, or does this appear to be an isolated incident?
So that I'm not really sure. I mean, if there are other victims of sexual assault, sexual abuse, certainly they should report it to the police. I mean, everybody should stand up and say something. After that, you can also report it to an attorney, and if you've suffered damages, you should be seeking those as well. I do want to respond to the long part that you just read out with regard to whether or not the accused was an employee or not. So I was aware. I mean, that they did tell me that he was not an employee. Part of what we allege, and that's fine, it may very well be true, and everything that you read in the statement may very well be true as well. Nobody's saying that after the incident took place that the college did not act responsibly. On the other hand, what we allege in the proceeding is that the defendant, the accused, was either an employee or a subordinate of John Abbott because he held an office there on campus. He was given an office. He had a phone number with a local, and he even had an email address which was associated with John Abbott. But in addition to that, we also allege that whether or not he was a subordinate, which automatically makes the college liable and automatically makes the West Island Readaptation Center also liable because, as we know, an employer is responsible for the actions of their employees if it's within their scope of their employment. But whether or not that's the case, I mean, he may still have been a subordinate, which would make the principal liable. It's not necessarily an employer; it can just be the principal. As well, I mean, we went with not just vicarious liability, saying somebody else did something, but you also are responsible for your own acts. So if you failed to adequately supervise and control the accused, who had access to the school campus and everyone knew would be interacting with students, to me, there's liability there as well. So everything from the statement may very well be true, and perhaps from a moral perspective, that's fine. But from a legal perspective, there can still be liability there.
Jeff Orenstein, thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you.
Jeff Orenstein is the victim's lawyer in a case where the former John Abbott student is suing for $600,000 in damages after a sexual assault happened at the college.